This is Swim, Success with Music. Yo, this is Swim, Success with Music. This is Walt. I am your music coach, your music industry guest, curator. My Star Wars name is Sharp Vader. All right, let's dive in. I was going to spare you the heavy breathing, but I could not resist. Hey, listen, today's episode is pretty special. Seriously, it's a very, very special episode. So I'm going to skip over all of the goofiness that typically happens at the beginning of the show, and I want to get into the content that we have for today. And that's because we have not only one, but two important music industry guests. Yep, I am talking about true music insiders, guys who know exactly how the music industry works. I mean, at the highest levels. Today, I'd like to welcome Dr. Stephen-Marcone and David-philp. Our guests are authors of an amazing resource for musicians. It's an incredibly informative book. I see it as a roadmap. It is the 6th edition of Managing Your Band. Artist Management, the Ultimate Responsibility. And here are just a few things being said about these guys and their new book. In its 6th edition, Managing Your Band has long since been the standard bearer for newcomers and hardened vets alike. From dive bars to festivals, from branding to merchandising, to marketing and publicity, from publishing and licensing to rights and contracts. Dr. Stephen-Marcone and David-philp leave no stone unturned in this comprehensive guide to artist management. Listen, these guys have worked for globally known music labels. They're well connected with agents, managers, artists, and I'm talking about names that will be recognized anywhere in the world. I can't even begin to number the people that they rub shoulders with in the music industry. You'll hear about some of those folks today. Listen, they're the real deal. So this episode, if you're about that music life, please tune in, focus. You're going to hear some information that will help you take your music game to an entirely new level. Now joining us for this week's Swim episode, we have Dr. Stephen-Marcone and David-philp. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your willingness to come onto the program and share your knowledge of the music industry. And from what I understand, you two are incredibly busy and you're rushing off to another broadcast obligation. So for the sake of our listeners, I want to make sure that we get in as much information as possible and get as much knowledge as we can as possible. But again, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't think I've ever been happier than I am right now spending this time with you. So thank you so much. I wish you were here with us to give us a strong bear hug.
There you go. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And we want to dive into our show today. And for you guys as well, our audience is primarily made up of those who are younger in the music industry. Most of our folks do not have those major record deals and things like that. And I know that you guys have seen the gamut in terms of the music industry. I want to maybe pull on that part of the your knowledge base that speaks to that aspiring artist, that the guy or the gal that's just getting into things and feel that they really want to take their career to the next level. So I want to kind of take our questions down that road today. So as industry experts and author of the book, Managing Your Band, let's talk about artist management. Should I care about artist management as an indie musician?
Well, it is the most important link in the music business and also the weakest link. It's the weakest link because there is no license, there's no set of courses, there's no nothing to become a personal manager. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, personal managers are just they evolve because they're hip. We're talking about the DIY guys now.
Sure.
Because they're hip, or maybe they were roadies and then wound up counting the number at the door at the clubs for the band. And the next thing you know, they talk to the club owner when they're settling up the end of the night, and they get another date. So now they start booking the band, and there's really no qualifications. And the band at that point usually trusts the person because they've been with them for the longest time. That's usually a very, very bad way to go, because what happens is that there's so much camaraderie that goes on, and as the band, if it's lucky enough to get bigger and bigger and bigger, 99 out of 100 of those guys can't swim at the Barracudas.
Oh, wow.
And actually, when you talk to labels always say the weakest thing with signing a new band is to make sure that their business is being taken care of. And most of the time, they sort of cringe when they see the manager that's sort of quote unquote managing them. And of course, we know on the other side, it is the most important aspect because this industry has gotten so complicated. In fact, we have changed our moniker in our curriculum, not from the music business to the music and entertainment industries, because it is that complicated today. So a manager today, and I remember a few years ago when I was writing one of the editions of this book, and I was sitting with a manager, and he said that his artist got actually a bite for a movie. And he turned to me and he says, I know nothing about the movie business. I don't know why I would have to know anything about the movie business, but I know nothing. But I'm having a series of dinners and lunches this week, and by Friday, I will know something about the movie business. Now, that's someone who takes the energy to actually try to learn as much as he can for the artist. Many managers may not have that time, or may not have that expertise, or may not have that just that gumption to say, I don't know anything and I have to learn this. So that's really why I kind of look at it as it still is the most important link, but it is also the weakest link.
And we can make another point is we were just visiting the Warner Music Group a couple of weeks ago, and we spent the day there. And we met an artist manager named Jake Posner, who is the manager of a group called Arizona, which is an Atlantic Fueled by Ramen band. Not Fueled by Ramen at all, Atlantic.
Yeah.
Mike Easterlin, who's the head of Fueled by Ramen, actually said he wished he had the band. Right. But they're on Atlantic Records. And we were talking to the manager, and he found the band through YouTube and then through a Reddit search and through discussions on Reddit with people. He found out more about the band, was able to get in touch with them.
Wow.
And basically said, I love you guys, dig the music, I want to manage you. And after a series of discussions, they decided to manage each other. The band got signed, and he says what he does, this is a guy with no music industry experience.
Okay.
What Jake says now is every day his job is to go into Atlantic Records and spend the day there talking to everybody, learning everything he needs to know about the business so he can help the band and so he can be the cheerleader for the band at Atlantic headquarters so that everybody knows this band Arizona is a band who we need to take seriously and spend time with. So he gets it right away, but he also understands. The cool thing that he gets is that he has a ton of information that he has to learn, and he's doing a real sort of a School of Hard Knocks on steroids. He got really lucky, but most people don't get that lucky that quickly.
So as an aspiring artist, when I'm hearing this, do I seek out artist management? Do I let them come to me? At what point in time should I seriously look into having someone manage, my craft and manage, my brand and manage, the business side for me? Where's the timeline for that?
Well, it's interesting because when you talk to DIY bands and they come into my office, they come into Dave's office, and they'll come in and they'll say, do you know any managers? We need a manager. And I'll say, well, why do you need a manager? And they'll say, because we gotta get more bookings, man.
Right.
We're just not working enough. And that's actually against the law for a manager to book a band. He doesn't have a license, an employment license, as any talent agent does. So what they're looking for normally is a talent agent or, booking agent that will able to get them sort of over the hump and let them at least stop eating at McDonald's. The time for management, I believe, is when you leave the sort of the bookkeeping style of having two boxes. One box is account receivables and the other box is account payables. And when they start to get too stuffed or they're overflowing, or you have a check where it's supposed to be, you're supposed to be paying somebody, but you have a check that you just received in that box and so on. And those boxes, of course, are, they may not necessarily exist, but that's really what you're doing. Mm-hmm. I think that's when the time that you try to get somebody to handle your business, because the business is in the way of your creative endeavors, which obviously what you want to do as a band is do original material. Sure. And, and write your own songs.
Yeah. It can also add about getting signed as a band for a manager. Everybody wants the manager, but in the real world in the 21st century, most bands are going to be their own manager until they start making some money. Unless they get lucky and they get that one person who really loves the music and is really passionate and has the time to spend doing the tasks of a manager, and the band doesn't mind the person learning on the job. It's really going to be the band doing it, putting it all together, breaking up the tasks amongst themselves. And then once some money starts flowing in and once the buzz starts, whether it's social media, whether it's just through doing great live shows and the right person sees you and tells somebody, then you're going to get some people who are going to start reaching out and trying to connect with you.
Sure.
One of the real jobs of a manager, once the band is signed, is that they should continue to make their artist a priority at the label. And you can't make your artist a priority at the label, especially in the early days, if you're 500 miles away. So you should understand that these managers in New York are the right way to go, or any of the centers of the industry. And secondly, that they should have a stable of artists. It's much more beneficial for a new artist to be with a manager who has several artists than just managing them. The obvious reason is because the connections, and many times that manager may have a headliner that he's managing and the new band can open up. Secondly, he'll have connections at a label as with a headliner that he can open up doors for the artist, the new artist, to try to get into that label. Same thing with booking agencies. If he knows a couple of agents, then they can become an opening act at some clubs or something. It's all beneficial, and it's all good. So that new manager that thinks they have to get a John Landau who only does Bruce or etc. is really not looking at the proper way.
Got it.
And I will add, going back to Marcone's original comment about band managers are not technically supposed to be booking gigs for the bands. They're not, especially in New York and California. Technically, it's illegal to do that.
Didn't know that.
But the real world, they're going to do it anyway.
Right.
Unfortunately, what may happen, and has happened a number of times, is you're going to get the band may get big, and some other manager is going to come calling for them, maybe a bigger name, and that other manager is going to say, did this guy ever book gigs for you? And they're going to say, yeah, he booked all our gigs in the beginning. They're going to say, well, that was illegal. You can fire them because he booked gigs for you and he's not allowed to do that. There's the out for the band. So it can be not win-win necessarily for a manager at times, but you got to go for it. You got to do the time and do what you need to do to break your band.
Got it. Now, you guys brought up an interesting point. You mentioned, having, these connections at the label, on the label side, potentially. It seems like the music industry has changed quite a bit, where, for me, back in the day, going to a label, getting picked up by a label was kind of like the holy grail of all music, all the music land. But in today's world, you hear about success stories on the indie side of things. Talk to us about that side of it. Is having that management piece critical if you're not, let's say, heading towards, getting a deal with a major label? Talk to us about that.
Yeah,
well, I've been saying a lot first, so that's why I thought maybe you want to throw your hat in first this time.
I'm not wearing a hat, Steve Marcone.
I thought your hair.
No, I'm. The reason, Walter, I'm not wearing a hat today is because I look really good.